Welcome back. We want to continue again with this set of ideas and exploring the ideas of groups and teams. And in this video, I want to introduce you to something called Tuckman and Jensen's group development model. Sometimes it's just called Tuckman's group development model. All right. So hopefully this is going to help us in thinking about the progression of what happens when students are going to get in a group all the way to when they're done, whatever the assignment is. It has to happen in order for groups or teams to grow, to face up to challenges that they have, to tackle problems, to find solutions, to plan their work, and ultimately to deliver their results. So this progression, again, it has to happen, it's necessary to happen in order for them to be really successful in achieving whatever goals that you've set for them, for the task, for their groups, teams. This is the progression, starting with forming. Students get together, it's forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. And we're going to go through these steps one at a time. To start with, students form. However you put the students together in their groups. In other videos I've talked about that. And you can see in the faces over here, some are, actually no one's smiling. There's a few, one of them's frowning, the rest of them are kind of, not so sure about this. Again, many times students coming into our modules and to our classroom have had negative learning experiences in terms of group work. And so not necessarily looking forward to it. So this is why it's critical for us to make sure that we do a really good job in helping them work through and be successful in that effort. And that includes going through these steps. So that's the forming part. So orientation members getting to know each other. This ends when group members are comfortable with one another. So just comfortable. All right. Then we go to the storming stage. This is one that we can really help our students work through fairly quickly and efficiently, or as best as we can. Conflict. There are disagreements about roles and procedures. It's important to promote different perspectives and clarify members' positions. Okay, how do we do this? How can we help them? How can we help them get from the forming to the norming stages more quickly and more efficiently? Some things I do, and others certainly, provide them a worksheet to record information about their group members, like their name, their contact information, their WhatsApp number, their email, whatever the case may be, so they can communicate with each other. Icebreakers are team warm-up activities, and there's just, you can go online and find all kinds of icebreaker activities and team warm-up activities. So they start to get to know each other a little bit. These are things that can last for 10 minutes or half an hour, typically not a half an hour, typically less than that. You spend time delineating the project and understanding the assignment and making sure they understand the assignment. So there's not as much discussion going on about, well, what does he want? Well, what does Dr. Hurley want from us? Because you spent the time, I've spent the time explaining that to them, probably multiple times, frankly. You spend time clarifying the task and creating relationships, all right? So this can be in some small group activity, getting back to this idea of warm-up activities. It can be done in a whole variety of ways. But we need to be thoughtful that we want to help them through that storming stage as quickly and effectively as we can. And then develop a group or team contract. And if you recall, when Shilan was talking about key goals for teams to be effective, attendance, timeliness, collaboration, effort, etc., she talked about the group contract. And that's where where this starts to come in terms of getting them through that storming stage and into the norming stage, is getting that group contract. So want to give some thought to that and integrating that into your approach to this. A couple of terms I want to emphasize for you that you need to make sure that your students understand what those terms mean, because they need to use these terms in developing that group contract. Quorum. The minimum number of members of a group that must be present at any of its meetings to make the proceedings of that meeting valid. In other words, make decisions. So, for example, I like to use 4 members in a group. And here's one of the key reasons, one key reason why I like to do that rather than 3 members of a group. If there's 3 members of a group and one person doesn't show up, the other 2 members, typically, my experience has been, they look at each other in class and say, well, so-and-so's not here, we can't make any decisions, we might as well not do anything or go home. On the other hand, if you have 4 members in a group and one does not show up, it's far more likely that they just automatically think of that as a quorum, that, hey, we can get something done even though that other person is not there. But they need to understand what a quorum is and integrate that into their idea of the group contract and how do they get things done and what happens if someone doesn't show up and those kinds of things. The other is consensus, and I really strongly want you to think about making sure they understand what a consensus is. It's a general agreement among a group of people. There's several different definitions. It depends on participants having broad agreement on specific issues and overall direction. Implies that everyone accepts and supports the decision and understands the reasons for making it. Certainly I know in this country, a lot of times when I have students do group contracts, and the question of, well, how do you make decisions amongst the group when there's diversity of opinion and so on? And they'll start talking about, well, we're going to take a vote. Okay, the problem with doing a vote is that there are winners and there are losers. Consensus, there are no losers. Everyone's on board. It may not be exactly what I want as one individual, but I'm okay that this is what we collectively have decided on. I think personally that's really important to make sure they understand this word and that they integrate that into their thought process of how do we make decisions, how do we talk with each other, and so on and so forth in the group contract, but also then in the group proceedings while they're doing things. Okay, so now we move up to the norming stages. Finally, everyone's pretty much on board, and we hopefully have a lot of smiley faces here. Everyone's kind of, yeah, okay, we're pretty much on the same page. Structure, this is establishment of rules and social relationships. Again, they're building off of that group contract. The group is cohesive. Norms have been established with trust. Again, a group contract is a great way to get that done. One other way to kind of help them start now going from this norming to the performing stage is very, very early, like I usually do it right away when they get into the groups and start this. It can actually be a starting point for a group warm-up activity, is to get them to do one of those CATs, classroom assessment techniques, called the paper or project prospectus. And these are some questions that I would integrate into that, and they're just more generalized here. I would couch these a little more specifically to your project. What is the tentative title of your project? They have to make a decision right now. What's the tentative title? They can change it. The word is tentative. They can change it. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But what do you think right now, as you guys start talking about your task, your project, whatever it is, what's the tentative title? What are the questions? There are questions that you're going to be addressing in making your project. Kind of like, what are the goals? What are you about here? What do you hope to accomplish? Describe a strategy your group will use to develop and complete the project. Include a timeline for achieving the steps of your strategy. How are we as a group going to do this? Are we going to wait till the day before it's due? Probably not. How are we going to proceed through this? We're going to have regular meetings, whatever, however it is. And again, a timeline preferably that leads up to that due date for that project. We asked the students to briefly describe how you would visualize your final product at this time. What's it going to look like? It depends upon the nature of what your product you're expecting from them. If it's a term paper, well, it's going to be typewritten. It's going to be whatever, 3 pages long, 20 pages long, whatever they're thinking at that moment, just to kind of get them to start thinking about that, not wait till the end to do that. List and briefly describe the types of resources that you currently anticipate using for your project. Are they going to go to the library? Are they going to go online? Or where are they going to get the information they need? So they need to start thinking right off the bat at the very beginning, where do I get this information? And briefly describe the strategy that you're going to use in presenting your project for the rest of the class at the end of the project. Again, it's a prospectus, it's a plan, and it comes at the very beginning, at the early stages of their project. Sometimes I come about midway through and give them another one and have them update it. I remind them, well, there's nothing cast in stone here. You can change, but when you started out, this is what you had in mind. It's not unusual for groups to come to me a couple weeks after they do this, 2 or 3 weeks, when they're, again, really focusing on that project. They come and say, well, Dr. Hurley, do you have a copy of that prospectus? Because we've kind of misplaced ours. We don't remember what we said. Of course, I have a copy. I give them that copy to help them out. So yeah, they do often go back to this. Okay, finally getting to the performing stage. Again, everybody's happy. Task, they're working on the task. Focus on completing the task. Most performance is occurring here at this performing stage. Not all groups are going to reach this stage. Again, it depends upon the timing, how long you give them, where it is in the semester, again, the nature of the task, and so on and so forth. Again, we hope that they can get to this performing stage. When Chilan talks about teams, a lot of times they're longer periods, maybe in a half semester, an entire semester. They should get to a performing stage. All right. And we want them to really be able to focus and do a great job on achieving whatever that task is. And then finally, adjourning. All right. And dissolution, completion of the task at the end of the project. And this may be kind of stressful. You can see here I've got some. They all have a frowny face now. Okay, they're all, oh, we got along really well, and I'm going to be away from my friends and so on. Can be stressful for ending formed relationships, and should be a time for learning from the team experience. So again, this idea at the end, getting them back and encouraging them to reflect upon the stages they went through, and also how did they do that and what the final result is. So, the group learning model, it's worthwhile for us as instructors to recognize this is going to happen. Again, remember, it's going to happen. All right, and our job is to make sure that our students work through this process as smoothly and as efficiently, as quickly as we can, especially these first few stages. So giving you some ideas on how to help them get from here up into here, and then hopefully moving up into the performing. So forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Thank you.